Thank you to ITAPA to invite HP. I know I have a challenge because I'm the last presentation before lunch, and that would be even more a challenge in France, I can tell. Well, obviously I'm French, so for the next few minutes, I would like to share with you my experience of some projects in big data. So I work in a big data group across EMEA, in fact, across the world, and I would like to talk a little bit about some big data challenges and opportunities as well. So big data, what's interesting in big data, it's not a solution of itself, it's a challenge. It's three technical challenges, as you know, on volume, variety, and velocity. So velocity means we have 100,000 tweets per minute now. If you take a plane in 1 hour, it's generating like 20 terabytes of data. So it's a huge challenge. But there is a challenge also on variety. I mean, I'm from BI, from database, and from data mining years before. Now I'm dealing with images, voice, text. So we have new challenges in terms of processing this data, and these data are growing much more faster than traditional business structured data. And the last one is the volume. Obviously, the volume is growing like crazy. I mean, if you take Yahoo, they have a cluster of 455 petabytes. So there is a big challenge in terms of handling these kind of challenges. So the solution have been presented in previous presentation. It's about AI, it's about artificial intelligence, it's about machine learning, it's about deep learning, it's about a bunch of new platforms and massively parallel system, including large Hadoop cluster, but including graphical processing unit. So we have all the technical means to address the technical challenges. But there are more than just technical challenges like for any technology. But there are challenges on one way and there are a lot of benefits. So there was a very interesting presentation from Gerd, and he said, yeah, there is 90% of benefits or things which are good with technology going ahead. And I would like to pick up just 4 examples in public sector where I've been working that illustrate the kind of benefits you can get. So the first one is the telecare thing. So it's a big thing, it's growing like crazy. And I'm teaching every year at university in Master of Science. And one day there was a student coming to me at the end of the course, and he said, I'm very interested in data mining, predictive analytics. I'm from Colombia. I'm a doctor. I'm attending this Master of Science, and I want to run a business to do remote care with the small villages in Colombia where you have people who are very hard to, get back to the hospital. I want to monitor their state. I want to take the right action before it's too late. And this guy now has a very successful business running on the cloud. I check that on a regular basis. That's one example. The other one is we're working also with a number of hospitals in Northern Europe, and they have all the experts. They have, fantastic algorithm on paper as well to not detect cancer, but know what action to take at what stage of a cancer, for example. They simply don't have the technology to deploy it, to handle the volume, or to simply run the algorithm on a safe basis. So we are building with this kind of customers as well what we call data lab. So data lab is combining technology and experts, in fact, in one place, and project by project, implementing use case in healthcare. The other one I want to touch on is on education. So there are a lot of things you can do in education with big data technologies. And the fact is, the first one is orient the student to the right path. What do you want to do next? We have a huge problem with that after baccalaureate in France. There were a lot of talks about this because people are kind of lost. What can I do? We need to share all information from the past about orientation. And obviously using prediction, understand where you need to go, where you can go, where you're going to be successful. But that's just one side of the story. The other one is, once you are at university, you need to be successful. And if you take UK, for example, and many other countries, all the universities are competing to get the best students, to retain the best students, to get funding if they have the best marks, and so on. So there are some solutions we have implemented in terms not just of monitoring what's going on, or at the end of the year understanding, sorry, but you failed, but right on time, take the right action to bring back on the right track the student. And there were some interesting findings, like for a specific curriculum, if you would pick up a book at the library on a certain topic, you would increase your probability of succeeding by a certain percentage. So reusing all the history, all the best practices from the students, predicting and prescribing the right action for the students to be successful. Also in public sector across Europe, there are a number of challenges in terms of cost reduction, and that goes for France and a number of countries in Europe, including UK and others as well, and looking for efficiency. So what we mean by efficiency, if I take the police force I was working with, I mean, they are facing budget constraints, but facing new threats. Terrorism is one. Child abuse was another one. And now they still spend a lot of time on low-risk crime. What I mean by that is you have some low-risk crime, you're getting the people into custody, you're spending a lot of time with them, and after a while, they are released no charge. So by analyzing data from the past, we could look at current investigation for the low-risk crime and say, this one is likely to be released no charge, this one is likely to be charged. So using this probability and some decision management tool, you may say, for the one who are likely to be released no charge, don't go for custody, bring in as an interview, and go through the process, and potentially you can close the case. And this ended up in saving a lot of hours, a lot of money, but a lot of hours for the police forces, which means all these hours can be spent on more strategic things and more high-risk crimes. And the second one is more related to social services. So social services also across Europe is facing a lot of budget constraint. There is an aging population. And this county I was working in East Sussex, in south of England, they wanted to, in a way, do more with less, looking for efficiency. So the first thing they wanted to understand, where do we spend the money? What is the most costly service in social care? And that was a surprise because one of the services, and like 2% of the patients were consuming like more than 80% of the budget. So once you point out what is the most costly service, you may say, who's likely to use it next? Can we find a replacement? So if it's social care placement, instead of doing last-minute thing, can we before act, and based on the disease, look at remote care potentially and bringing someone on site at the patient home, check from time to time? Just by doing this, by doing predictive and prescriptive analytics, you can save a lot of time and a lot of money as well, and still for the benefit of the patient. So this ended up, I mean, identifying like several £100,000 of saving, for example, for this one on just 6 months. So they are going ahead with another phase of this project. So again, you can do more for the benefit of the citizen with less if you embark on such predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now, I would say big data has also its own challenges. So for big data to succeed, you need to understand how to get value from big data. I met large customers, I won't mention the names, very top guys on the IT, and they told us we have implemented big data. So, okay. We have done a Hadoop cluster. So they had big data on their to-do list, and they have implemented a Hadoop cluster. And they turn to us and to others and say, how can I find a business case supporting this? How can I connect back to the business? I have a solution. Could we find a problem? You need to address that from the very beginning. You need to involve business and IT together. You need to understand what you want to do, what sort of scope you want to do. Is that descriptive? Is that more predictive, prescriptive? Is that deep learning techniques in the back? And then check on the data. Do you have the data? I know project we never started because still struggling on data access, for example. And once you've done that, you've got business and IT aligned, and you go ahead with your technology, and then you can get the benefit and measure it back as well. The other, I would say, challenge we have on big data is this big data skills shortage. So you probably heard about this Superman, this data scientist that everybody wants to hire. So let's say if you have a master in computer science, if you have an MBA and a PhD in stats, you're probably a data scientist potentially. Not many people are. And there are different levels as well. Now you see more technology coming in the area of data science platform. Means you don't have to write your own algorithm, you still can. But I mean, you can use existing ones. So you're turning into being a machine learning engineer, meaning you know how to use the algorithm and when, you know how to get the benefit of it. You still have some top guys who are writing the algorithm. But again, if you know that, if you've got already good algorithm, and with data analysis, you're bringing the right data, I mean, you may improve the performance. There is a rule in big data that says that better data will always beat better algorithm. And that's quite true, and that's our experience as well. So not everyone should be a data scientist. That could be a team. But again, there are platforms to help us move into that direction and still get the benefits of big data. So now, beyond the big data project itself, there are other challenges, and some of them were touched on this morning. The first one is dataism. I don't know if you heard of that. I think that was one of the girls' slides before. The guy whose name is Yuval Harari. I think he wrote a book which is called Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. I'm just starting this book, but it's quite interesting. And he says some people are really under dataism. like everything is in the data. The world is a data flow, and the truth comes from the data, not to say the Homo sapiens algorithm is obsolete. And honestly, I've seen some customers as well, and some people like willing to go into big data, and they said, we're going to give you all the data we have and find something, please. So, sorry, no. I mean, we still need to understand what is the business issue or the typical issue you're going after. It's not about reducing costs, it's about doing some prediction, improving the customer, improving the student success, these kind of things. You need to be driven. And there is another rule in big data that says that the second most important thing in big data is the data. You still need the question. And Gerd said that. I mean, machines are good at finding answers. We are good at finding questions. So you can still explore and find additional questions, but you need to be driven in that space. And what's interesting, there is another book which is called Massive Weapons of Math, like in mathematics, destruction. Probably you heard of that one from Cathy O'Neill. And she said, like, if you keep working with black box algorithm, you're going to lose control. You're going to be unfair. You're going to lose track of what you do. So you need to be able to not only drive, have a business objective, but interpret. So what does it mean? So, I mean, 15, 20 years ago, we were running small decision tree algorithm. It was really easy to understand the rules behind. Now you're running a random forest one, and you have 65 decision trees combined, and an average understanding of the most influential variable. So you're losing sight of what are the rules behind, what makes the decision. And that's where we can bring additional models to explain the more complex model, and then you keep the drive. And you decide. And decide doesn't mean if something has been predicted and there is a standard action to run that you need to take it. You need to include your company specifics. That would be cost, time, your values, to the point made by Gerd. So we're building decision management dashboard based on prediction. We're not automating decision based on black box algorithm. That would be the wrong thing to do. The other one is data privacy. I mean, I was working with police and social care and NHS. Privacy was a big topic. Still a big topic. Today, as a French guy using Facebook in France, if I'm signing the Facebook data law agreement, I'm signing with Ireland, because Facebook is based in Ireland. So by May 25th next year, GDPR will come into play. It's going to be a big change, because you will have data subject access, data erasure. You can even ask for your data to be moved. There is a big impact there, obviously. An impact on the business side, to understand what means personal information, direct or semi-direct. And on the technical side, to have the right IT infrastructure, and also to be able to freeze the infrastructure to do a data inventory. We have a lot of customers working already on data inventory, deduplication, and so on, to be ready by mid-next year. And the last one is the impact on jobs, and that was very well covered by Gerd, I would say. So he said, you need to develop control, and he said, and I fully agree with this statement. I think he said there are three top qualities, top skills. One was complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. I think the top three from this morning. That's why you need to develop the STEM skills that you're aware of, these science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But you need the human studies. You need all this human science to keep control and also to develop jobs that will be safe on the long run. So totally aligned on this. You need both the complex solving capabilities, but you need to look at the human studies and science to move on your way. So as a conclusion, I would say that big data is not just technical challenges, as you know. And as technologists, we know that very rarely technology is the issue. There are way more challenges, and I think business need to drive absolutely big data and control it. No black box, starting from a business need from the beginning, ending up with a decision management dashboard. And the impact on job transformation requires new orientation. We've seen that, and I know there are a lot of discussion about the robots. It was mentioned that in Saudi, for the first time, as you know, a robot is a citizen. That was a few days ago. In France, during the last presidential election, there was one candidate, just like Bill Gates, who said we should tax the robots. Guess what? In Saudi, they don't pay taxes. So this robot will not pay taxes. But that's that thing we see more and more, and big topic of discussion as well through the job transformation in France. Last but not least, I think what's interesting for us and in the project we run with our customers is we're moving from providing support to providing value. And the customer wants us to show value, not just performance, not just a benchmark, not just handling the volume. but show me the value of the return, and that's not just money, that could be time saved, that could be efficiency of the process. And we have this ongoing discussion with customers. We go from a big question, we explore data, we find some insight, and sometimes looks odd, and they say, I can explain that. And sometimes we're very proud of an insight, and they say, no, not interesting, but this one is interesting, let's explore that way. And we start from a big question, we know a big problem, we generate question, and we're going down to delivering value. So with that, I would like to thank you and let you know that we have a booth, also HP, if you want to see more of this solution in action later on. Thank you.